Spike, and I'd like to introduce the filmmakers. We're very fortunate to have them all here. Michael Shawver, our editor, their editor. Ludwig Göransson. Autumn Durald. Sev Ohanian. And of course, the one and only Ryan Coogler. Well, congratulations. I mean, this is the second time I saw it. I was just saying that I had to go, before I came out and said hello to them, I had to take a minute because I was so emotional. It's beautiful. And so I thought we would start at the beginning with the script, which is just amazing and so fully formed in so many movies. I remember I texted you when it came out, and I felt like when it just keeps exploding into different movies. It's like, and pulls it off too. And I was just wondering, like, was that your intention? And it's so many different movies, and there's so many original movies in this one movie.
Yeah, I think so. Like not initially. That was initially my intention when I started writing it. I was just trying to make something cool, and I was thinking about my uncle. And then at some point, like in the process, it kind of became like I started making it like it was the last movie I'll ever get to make, and I think it was a part of like just getting older. I'm starting with losing my uncle initially, so I'm contemplating mortality quite a bit, and Zenzi and I, Zenzi's not here. We just had a baby. She's up north, but she produced it with Sev and I. Like all of our friends, we make movies with all of them, and we all are having kids. The kids are getting older. It was coming off of a strike. I think we were in the strike when I started putting pen to pad. And like we started to get this feeling of like, our lives are all changing, man. What if the ability to just run off and go do something cool goes away before we get to really do something that's really us, you know what I mean, and nothing else. So that was kind of when the film started to get more crazier and epic in scope than intended, and it was also like a genre thing. It was always like working with Delta blues. You kind of know that like all forms of popular music kind of branch out of that, so that was always something that I was thinking about. I knew that the movie would have to kind of be a shape-shifting movie, but I didn't know it would get as crazy as it ended up getting.
And so at what point did you like sort of, I guess, did it start as a vampire movie? Is that the first, or more musical? It was
always going to be, it was always going to have a musical element. It was always going to have a horror element, and they were always going to end up in that juke joint. But at first, like I remember talking with Zenzi, I was like, yo, what kind of monsters should they be? Like should it just be like the basic haint? We were thinking about werewolves and stuff. But it kept coming back to vampires. And I think really just like it's no cryptid or monster that's as sexy, as seductive as vampires can be. And so it just made sense for the music, that it would have to be a kind of monster that can offer a deal, that's attractive. So that was when we zeroed in on that creature.
And what about, at what point did you, I assume you were already thinking about Michael B. Jordan, and at what point did you decide to make him twins?
That was from the jump. Yeah, the twins thing was from the jump. I knew it would be Mike, and he had to play two roles. I got a big, everybody who knows me, I got a fear of doppelgangers. Like, and it's like a joke, you know what I mean? But like sometimes we'll be on Zoom calls, and if it's a glitch, if somebody pops up twice on the Zoom, I gotta have a panic attack. So it was something I always wanted to explore.
Wow. And at what point did you bring in Sev?
Yeah, so Sev, Zenzi, and myself, we have a company called Proximity Media. We started it together about 7 years ago, and I lived with Zenzi. So she was the first person who I was pitching the idea to. And after it passed like the Zenzi test, because she got a great bullshit meter, I brought it to Sev and to the rest of the company. Ludwig was probably in the mix somewhere pretty early there too.
And what was your take on it? How did you?
I mean, I was just blown away. I'm like, it sounded like, maybe initially sounded like maybe an easier movie, you know, because it's one day, it's kind of mostly one location, and there's no like vibranium in this one, you know. So I was like, okay, cool, we can pull this off, and then like any movie, you know, it starts hitting you. I'm like, wait, how many Michael B's? It's like 2 of them. Okay, how are we gonna pull that off? And then the music, oh my God, you know, because, you know, Ludwig, of course, incredible composer, and he's done all of Ryan's movies, but more often than not, he's, you know, usually he has time because, you know, the movie's shot and he'll be working early, but he doesn't necessarily have the deadline. But this time we had to, like, Ludwig and his incredible partner, Serena, had to come up with all these original blues music that we had to shoot. And then, of course, the Serial montage, which was, I kind of consider it the final exam of filmmaking and producing, because that, you know, that's the sequence in the middle where he performs the I Lied to You song, like that. The amount of rehearsals we had to do, it was kind of like while we were shooting, we would have like off days on Saturdays. We'd all come in, some of us wearing pajamas, just like figuring out the blocking. And Ludwig was there like live recording. And we realized like the camera could only shoot like 76 seconds, Autumn, was it? Because it was the IMAX large format is so heavy that we had to do a half load on the Steadicam. We had to figure out all the timing of that. Ludwig was recording it live. We had special effects on set. We actually burnt the actual set. You know how the roof literally goes on fire and the camera goes up and it's all on frames? We literally burned the set. That was the last day of filming. All of that came in. So when at first I was like, yeah, one day, one location, easy. Not the case.
Wow. Oh, yeah. But the amazing thing about it is you see the work, but you don't feel it. It feels so effortless in the story. And at what point did you? I love Autumn, by the way. We worked together a couple of times, and she's amazing. And in the last movie you did together, at what point did you know, oh, she's your person? And did you decide to bring her into it?
With Autumn, I think it was before we did Panther. Yeah, I work with a lot of like it's hard for me to not get close to the people that I'm working with, and I became aware of Autumn based off like a couple recommendations of people I really love and trust. Rachel Morrison, who shot Fruitvale, is a good friend of Autumn's, but Rachel was having a baby when we were getting ready to go shoot Creed, and I couldn't bring her on. So I was trying to find a DP. I ended up hiring Maurice Alberti, but Bradford Young recommended Autumn. She had just shot a film called Palo Alto by Gia Coppola, and he said, I called, I don't know if I ever told you this, but he said very few cinematographers scare me because they're so good. And he was like, Autumn scares me. So I was like, I gotta try to hire this lady. It ended up not working out for me to get her for Creed, you know, and work with Maurice, who was great. And then Rachel shot Black Panther 1, and then Rachel became a director. So she wasn't available for Black Panther 2, and Autumn had just done Loki for Marvel, and so I was like, you know, trying to get her on Panther 2. They loved her on Loki, so then I was able to Zoom with her, and we worked it out, and you know, within a few days of working together, like I knew I wanted to you know, I wanted to work with her forever if possible. You know what I mean?
What does she bring, or what does she?
I mean, we speak the same like emotional language. She's very technical, obviously, but most cinematographers are. But you know, she has a way of being of being technical and emotional. So much so that when you see her images, just the emotion hits you. You don't even like all the technical fades away. You know, I think you know, so it's a great. I feel like I'm in good hands. She loves movies, so we speak the same language in terms of how we want a scene to make us feel. And she's incredibly determined. You know, we've been in some, you know, both these last couple movies were pretty intense. You know, a lot of life get thrown at us, and like, you know, stories y'all wouldn't believe from the from the sets. Like one day we were shooting, I feel like we got hit with the 7 plagues while we was in a church. At a certain point, like we ran out of time, and like locusts was flying in. You know what I mean? And Autumn was just sitting there on the camera, still like you know, bugs everywhere. And she's like, "Yo, bro, I think we got a wrap." You know, but But no, she's just great, man. I'll recommend anybody who needs a DP, seek her out. I'll try to keep her busy. You know what I'm saying?
And Autumn, when did you know that you and Ryan had that connection? About what point in Black Panther was there a moment?
Yeah, I mean, I think, like how I met you and my collaborators, people are recommending people that I would work well with, and I'm going to do my best work. So when Rachel and Bradford were like, you have to work with this person, I already knew that I wanted to, but then we did a Zoom call, and it was like talking to your cousin. It felt like family. And then he's like, you need to talk to Hannah, who's our production designer. And I got on a Zoom with her, and it felt the same. It just felt like I belonged, which is nice, because I enjoy working with my friends. But I do feel like once we were on set, like we're all thrown so much stuff, and it's like going to war. So you're not going to go to war with anyone that you don't like or you're not inspired by. And I think Ryan tees up a family so that like everybody is just top notch and doing their best work. And it shows in the film. Like you can see that we're all having fun, and the work is great. So yeah, I mean, I'm at work, but it's like I'm hanging out with my friends kind of too on a very big level. But yeah.
And there's been so many conversations to pull this off. What was the sort of the themes that drove your decision making and your and Ryan's conversations in terms of how to photograph it, and the looks or the lenses or the lighting?
Yeah, I think for me, and I guess this is since it's our second film, the first time that I get inspired is he usually calls me. Like I read the script, and then, we're not in the same town, so I'll exchange an email and just give like my first impression of what I've read. And then we do a call. And on that call, he ends up telling me what it means to him, like what the core of the film is and what inspires him. And from that call, to be honest, I feel like I get it. And he gives me usually one reference off of that call. And in this one, it was a book of photographs by a woman named Eudora Welty. And after I bought that book of photographs, it just made sense. Like I could tell what he was after and kind of the core and emotion in it. And he does that really well, because I feel like once you have that as a filmmaker and like what they're after, you protect it, right? It's like you protect that in every technical thing that you do, because they voiced it to you from the start and you can feel it. So it's really that call, and I always love that call. And then obviously every day we go over stuff, and he'll throw other references at me, and we have. But I think for me, that's how I work. It's like I need that one call from him. Yeah.
That's amazing. And Ludwig, I realized just that you were a producer when I just watched it, which makes sense because the amount of music and the sort of inherent storytelling aspect of it is a profound. And so at what point did you guys start talking? At what point did you start making music? And how, it really seems so seamless and also so dense, where it's going from blues into, all these other genres, or blues with the sort of tension and telling this, sort of the stressful vampire don't get bit story.
Yeah, no, absolutely. Ryan, while he was writing the script, I think he called me and on FaceTime, and I saw he was sitting at his house with a guitar in his lap, and he was like, "Hey, how do I play this lick?" And I was like, "Oh, okay, why do you want to learn how to play guitar?" And it was like, "Oh, I'm working on a movie about a guitar player." So I was when he said that, I was kind of ecstatic because, those I'm also a guitar player, but just those movies that are so deeply about music, I can remember through my life, I've only seen a handful, and those have been, as a musician, has been very special to me. And to get a chance to work on a movie about music, I thought was just a once in a lifetime kind of thing. and I think Ryan was also very smart, because he was like, "Oh, would you want to be also helping out like as an executive producer?" And I was like, "Yeah, that sounds great," not knowing how much work that was going to be, because there's so much music in the film, and Serena, my partner, and also she's executive music producer. she was like, we were going through the script, and she was like, there's no way we can do this movie unless we move to New Orleans to set. And I was a little hesitant about that because I like to be in my studio. I don't like, I mean, I like to be in a little music studio by myself. But so this was a completely new adventure, going out to New Orleans, living there for 3 months, 4 months, hanging out on set almost every day. They did a month of night shoots. Like you know, you have to get there at 5 p.m. and then I find out we're going to shoot the music scene last at 3 a.m. in the morning. It's 2 hours outside of the hotel, so I can't go back to the hotel. So I'm just hanging out. Yeah, I mean, it's great. What's great though is that, like Autumn said, it's a family, right? So all of the people there, we're friends. We known each other. We've done 4 movies together, 5 movies together, and so it's really fun family. But I think one of the things that Ryan told me that I thought was so interesting about this movie is that you know, the music, it takes place in the 30s, and it's the music that we know from the 20s and 30s. The records that we've heard, they're terrible. You know, the technique of recording, those audio recordings doesn't sound good. Just like they say in the movie, they sound like horseshit. And so what if we, you know, and also I like what you said, Ryan, about how it's almost like when you look at photos from your grandparents and it's black and white, you know, that's how people think that the world looked back then, right? And that's how people think the music sounded like in the 20s and 30s. So what can we do to, you know, bring that to life in maybe in a way that it felt like at that time?
And so, meaning in terms of like, and so did you deviate from how they would have played it, and add layers to it, or try to make it sound like what it would have sounded like in the room?
Well, first of all, we needed to find really great musicians, like, and find an actor who was also an incredible musician. Because back then, like, if you listen to, you know, those old records like Robert Johnson or Tommy Jensen, and Ryan kept sending me music that he was inspired by throughout writing the script. If you listen to that music, it's incredibly complicated. Like the musicianship and the technicality, and there's sometimes the performer is singing. He's singing like he has 3 different types of voices in one song, and he on the guitar he plays guitar, bass, and drums. It's a whole band, but just playing on. So that we had to find an actor. It was hard, but we finally found Miles Caton, and boy, was he incredible. I mean, he from the moment we heard his voice, we know this guy's really special. But he didn't know to play guitar, so yeah. But he, but I could tell he's a musical savant. So and he's a very serious person. So he had 3.5 months to learn how to play, and it's also not easy guitar playing. I'm a guitar player. Like, I know, like, playing slide guitar, playing melody, it's very difficult. And what he pulled off, I mean, when I met him in New Orleans a week before shoot and saw him play, I was blown away.
And Ryan, what you've worked with Ludwig for a long time. What was it that drew you to him, and why do you keep working with him? And what's his approach that works with the way you work?
Oh man, me and him met 2008. We met in 2008. And I mean, we've been working together since then. And he's just really good. Like, number one. Like everybody up here, like they're not up here because we friends. You know what I mean? Like they all are top class in the world at what they do, and Ludwig's really humble, but he's just like a fucking incredible musician, and he's really smart and really cool. So we met while we were in graduate school, and he was really like the first composer that I really knew. You know. And I knew he was in school with a bunch of other composers, you know what I'm saying? And I imagine like everybody was a multi-instrumentalist and really talented, like which they all were. But I remember like hearing his work and it being like a serious cut above, to the point when I'm like, oh shit, that's my friend. You know what I mean? Like I heard his work after I got to know him, you know? yeah, like he went pro. He went pro before all of us. Like he bought a house before all of us and shit. You know what I mean? Like no, it's just real. It's just real talk. Like half the furniture in my house is because I seen it in his house. Like and slept on it when I didn't have a place to sleep. You know what I mean? It's like, okay, when I get on, I'm gonna buy a chair like Ludwig's. You know what I mean? But no, he's brilliant, man. Like he'll tell you he can only play the guitar, but he can play everything. He has he doesn't judge any type of music. You know what I mean? To him, he's looking at everything. You know, with respect and love. You know what I mean? Like incredibly well traveled. You know, he's been all, like if he wants to learn how to play something, like he goes to the actual place. You know what I mean? Like he got a movie that'll come out next year. I'm sure some of y'all have heard about it. Some of the places that he's been to learn the type of music that he needs for the movie is just insane. You know, like he's so he's just an incredible person to work with. We've become family since then, you know, and I always looped him into the process early. We got taught by a guy named Kenny Hall, rest in peace. Passed away a few years back. He used to teach a class called Directing the Composer at USC, but he was a music editor for Jerry Goldsmith. And he would always kind of talk about how, like the ideal directing and composer relationship, like how you should work with the composer, how we shouldn't use temp music in our cuts, how we should get the composer the screenplay as soon as possible. We should start talking about what you need, you know. So we kind of follow that. We kind of follow that mentality that Kenny taught us, and it's worked out incredibly well for us.
Yeah, for sure. And with Michael, how did you meet, and why do you keep returning to Michael?
Yeah, so Mike I met shortly after I met Ludwig and Sev at film school. We were both in the same class. But I think Mike, you might have came a semester after I got there. From Rhode Island, big sports fan. Somebody from Rhode Island out there? Yeah, that's yeah. Big sports fan, you know. And we took a directing class together first, yeah. Right? And we had a class at our school that we all took, where it would make you, you know, hire department heads from your class, and oftentimes you know it's two of them. You know, you crew up, and I ended up crewing up with Mike. He and another editor named Claudia Costello cut my first movie in that class. It was called Fig. So that was my first time working with him as an editor. He's just phenomenal, man. He's cut every movie I've ever made since then, and has such a brilliant way of looking at storytelling. He kind of a secret weapon, man. Like each movie, he also cuts a sizzle reel, like in the middle of the shooting, and we show it to the crew, and they get fired up when they mad at us for working long hours and everything. It's you know, like we show them one of Mike's sizzle reels, and it's like, man, let's go, this is the best movie ever. And then we can finish up, but I don't know, Mike, you want to talk about how you met, bro?
Yeah, so I was in a directing class with Ryan. Like a lot of film students, I went in as a director, and you know, most student films are about death or breakups because that's the only conflict people really know at that point in their life. But there was this guy in the class making stuff sometimes with no dialogue that you would just be heartbroken at the end or inspired, and you know, I always wanted to make movies that did something positive, you know, for the world, and I was the kid that sat in the back of the class, just took everything in, listened, you know, was cautious about stuff, but something in my gut said, you got to go talk to this guy and work with him. I just went up and I said, I don't know how, you know, because we're both in a directing class, but I'd love to work with you. I can edit a little bit, and then you know, from then, you know, I think we all knew how great Ryan was, and how much greater he would be. And I didn't think I was very good. And so my job was to just cut everything I could in sight, match his place, you know. But the ability for Ryan to let each department head have agency over what it is. And there are times where we won't agree. And he may say, no, I don't think that works or whatever. And we have sort of this unspoken thing where if I go, I let it go. And if it keeps gnawing at me and keeps, you know, some nugget of truth is in there, and he's open to it again. I've never heard, no, don't, I've already told you, no, whatever. We keep exploring, we keep it as organic as possible. And what's amazing about working with this filmmaking family is that, my job in a way is to kind of get out of the way. I fix things that happen, everything, post-production, there's always something that doesn't work that you thought did. But, with the absolute beautiful footage, the incredible production value of this movie, the music, and Ryan's direction and performance, it was the challenge on this one in a lot of ways was figuring out what this was going to be. A lot of our other movies we had, as artists, and everybody here knows it, you look at stuff that inspires you to keep inspiring you or to see what people did in the past, your filmmaking ancestors in a way, and for us, there wasn't any hard and fast version of this that had existed before, and you kind of wade through the sea of notes and dodge some and block some, but truly allowing whatever this movie wanted to be to come out and to be actually what it was, and in a lot of ways it was help fostering and just being the gatekeeper of it, as opposed to trying to force something for it to be what it's not.
And how long did you edit till you lock picture, and how much? I got to imagine like there's just pacing wise, when to get to the next big thing, or even when to get to the next movie, or how to sort of make all the tones work. What was that process? How long did it take? How long was the movie at different times?
Yeah, that's a great question. I mean, I think, you name it, and we had a version of that length and of that time. The first editor's cut was about 3 hours, and it worked. And then we did 2:45 and it worked, and then 2:30 and it worked, and then we did a 90-minute version, which cut out the opening, a lot of the build up and the getting the gang together. And I told Ryan that I didn't want to put my name on that movie. And
is that just part of the process to see what is essential? Like, is that where?
Yeah.
Is that how you guys arrive there? Just to like what is absolutely essential, and then sort of let it.
Yeah, this one was a tricky one, cause like each version would work. So, but yeah, Mike did say that at one point. He was like, "Yo, it can't be this one."
I was very tired. Usually I can, but yes, it's, you strip away, you take out your favorite scenes, you put them back in, you see what works in juxtaposition with the others, and Ryan is truly a no stone unturned director, and he would come in every day, no joke, with like 3 or 4 different versions of the movie that he just wanted to explore and try, and that was the task of just seeing what it was. And then there is an instinct when you go through test screenings and stuff where you get the note of get to the vampires faster, get to this faster. We knew from past movies that we call it taking your medicine as an audience, of go through this stuff, live with this stuff, and then you're going to care at the end. And, with something like this, one of the greatest feelings ever was going to see it opening weekend, because when that movie ended, you could cut the emotion with a knife. And I truly realized that we had created an experience for people. And so leaning more on that macro view of things and the overall experience that you maybe can't say, oh, that pacing is fast or not. A lot of it was a feeling. And we all supported each other to, and when I have such beautiful footage and amazing music to work with, it makes my life a lot easier.
One thing I also wanted to talk about was Michael B. Jordan, and not only his performance here, which I've got a lot of questions about because it's rich, and even right at the beginning, like I quickly forgot it was one actor. I quickly I wasn't even thinking about that anymore, and that we really did feel like 2 actors and 2 performances. But when I met you and Michael in San Francisco, it was a film festival, and you were screening Fruitvale Station, and as I've watched you guys, I've just so admire your collaboration and relationship, and it's really and what you bring to each other, and your evolution as a filmmaker, his evolution as a director is really inspiring. And can you tell me about that relationship, but also how you guys approach the characters?
Yeah, absolutely. Been working with Mike, since 2012, I want to say it was. And yeah, he's an incredible actor. It's actually funny because we were talking about this with Mike, and this is like it's a guild screening. The curse of Mike is he makes incredibly difficult things look easy, you know. So sometimes it's like you don't even think about it, you know. Like that's like I was talking with Sev, like, you know, Mike is just physically, right? Like Mike is naturally a very small guy, you know. Like when I met him, he was like 150 pounds. He looked like an adolescent underwear model. You know what I mean? That was. But I mean, like, that was you know, that was what he was. And for Fruitville, I'm like, you know, this guy spent time in prison. You know what I mean? Like, he was from the Bay Area. He doesn't look like a Los Angeles actor. You know, we gotta get you to gain weight and look like a normal person. You know what I mean? And it was like it was really difficult for him to do, you know, like he had to work at it. And then you know, I wrote a movie for him where he's playing like a boxer, but not just like a normal boxer, but it's like a boxer in a Rocky movie. You know what I mean? Like where I had to take this dude who had to just like stuff his face with cheesesteak sandwiches just to look normal. Like now you got to look like, you know, you're related to Carl Weathers. You know what I mean? Like And you know, you got to do a montage with you like hitting the speed bag. He's like, "Yo, man, what?" You know, like and like he did it, you know, but because he's Mike, you know, he takes his shirt off in that movie, and it's like, well, yeah, that's what I thought he would look like underneath there, you know, like it's not like with other actors where it's like, yo, look how he changed his body, you know what I mean? Even though he had to do, you know, his charisma, his acting choices, man, it's kind of taken for granted. And it's been interesting to see it happen with this. Like, people be like, oh yeah, it was two people there, man. You know, like, but of course it was. It's Mike, you know. Yeah. And it was so much work that went into that. You know, and on this one, you know, I you know, that work he was doing to prepare for those characters, man. And he went and stayed in a house in Ojai with a dialect coach that we worked with on the Panther films. You know, developing the different cadence between the twins, and you know, we worked on their backstory and different physical tics that they do. What things they do that are in common. What things they do that are completely unique. You know, he had to work on his hand trimmer. We studied what these guys were built like. You know what I mean? These World War I vets down in the South. We knew that he was gonna have a bigger build to him, but you know, he's not as cut as he is in the creative movies, and you know, because them dudes wasn't doing like, you know, high intensity interval training. You know what I'm saying? They was eating, you know, they was eating what you eat in Mississippi, you know, and maybe doing a push up or two, you know, and he was able to, you know, he was able to find all those things. So like with Michael, he's an incredible crafts person, you know. He's gifted, and he has the work ethic and the discipline and the focus. And he just cares so much. Like, he wants things to be great. And now he's a director, you know, so it was great having him on set. Cause I think that a lot of times, you know, directing's such a weird job, you know this, Spike, you know what I mean? You really, you know, your movies is half the reason we all here, man. But a lot of times it's hard to understand the gig until you sit in those shoes. And having him on this movie, he just knew like when to check in with the cast, when to check in. It was like having an extra set of hands there on set, amidst all the other things he was doing, man. So again, any of y'all that's going to make movies, definitely try to get Mike if y'all can. You know, he's great. But I'm gonna try to keep him busy still, you know. So best of luck.
I'm just curious. This movie is one of the things it's obviously so difficult to make. Like, just the what you're shooting for, and how effortless the storytelling is. I'm just curious if there's a moment that this is one of the hardest moments of the thing, where you just, and maybe you guys could each tell the story, and we'll get a sort of a collage of the experience.
I can just easily tell it was a surreal montage. I mean, that I remember just when I read the script and I was reading, and I got to the point where the surreal montage, where the music goes into montage when you meet the ancestors, the past, present, and future. And I had goosebumps reading it. I was like, I could never even have imagined this, and let alone like being able to work on this in a movie this size. And and I knew it was going to be a lot of work. Like Ryan we've done a few movies with big musical montages, and those have always been like the last thing we finish. But for this one, for this real montage, what was so great is that Serena and I, we were in New Orleans. We were working closely with Autumn, with Sev, Michael Shawver, and the visual effects department. We had meetings, weeks and weeks ahead of this filming this scene. And I've never prepared like this for anything in my line of duty, where I get to kind of really stake out exactly what we're gonna do. We have a meeting with the choreographer. We're going through the scene and just meticulously planning it out. And I also had my computer there, so I was almost like DJing it when we're shooting it. It was a surreal moment to just be part of, and I'm so happy how it turned out.
Yeah. Any other locust stories?
We had there was that one time that alligator showed up on set. Like true story. We really shot it in the elements, and our production designer Hannah Beekler is amazing. A lot of the locations you see, like the church, for instance, Annie's shack, Joan and Bert's cabin that Remick shows up at, those are ground to top like builds that Hannah really wanted to make sure we could do it authentically. So part of that meant where we were shooting the juke was like an active swamp. And one day I heard something on the walkie like alligator on set. So I just thought maybe that's like a cool like a DP tool that you guys use, like caterpillars, whatever. And then it's like, oh shoot, there's an actual alligator on set. And the animal handler, fun fact, they actually like arrest the alligators. Like they like tie their hands together. Alligator was safe. But I mean, to me, like the memory that comes to mind is there's a sequence in the middle of the movie where Remick has now turned a number of our juke joint partiers, and he's having a dance party. The Rocky Road to Dublin sequence. We, like any movie, you kind of schedule your day the best you can. We had a good chunk of time in the middle of the night that we had to shoot that. But just as it happens, things go late and, natural things, of course. And we found ourselves having a very limited amount of time to shoot that. And it was incredible. Everyone on the stage, everyone on our cast and crew, everyone was locked in. We got to pull this off. And the frenzy that we pulled that off was incredible. I mean, it was like literally like we had like the sun was coming up and I think you guys are shooting, like you guys are trying to change, block the sun, whatever we could do to just get the sequence. And that final moment of Remick, like being everyone tackling him because they're so happy. The moment we all cut, we all just jumped on Ryan. We're like, we did it. And the sun was coming up and we hadn't slept in 2 days and we all went and got tacos. So yeah.
Well, just to end this, thank you everyone for coming. I was just curious, like I found this movie very moving, and I'm just curious, Ryan, what moves you about this movie?
Oh, everything, man. Everything about it. Like you were asking this question, like what was the most difficult day? All the days were hard, bro. Like, but I so loved making this movie, bro. Like it was in I've been blessed, man, in this industry to be able to have made movies every time. I made movies that I love. I made the movie that I wanted to make at the time, and that's an incredible blessing. You know what I mean? I'm aware of that, and I try to maintain that awareness. But there were days on this movie, bro, that were like surprisingly emotional. You know what I'm saying? It's the idea started with me losing my uncle and the sacrifice that, if I could play my cards right, I would be there when my uncle transitioned. I was in an editing suite. I was at Wildfire Studios in LA, cutting Creed, and got the call about one of the most important people in my life passing away, and I had to go in the hallway and cry my eyes out, and then go back in and finish locking picture for a screening or something. You know what I mean? Like that the whole the whole movie is about the sacrifice that you make for following your dreams, right? And so the film was I wrote the film with this in mind, but you get so busy that you're not thinking about the actual thing that you started for. You're just trying to make the day, right? You know what I mean? Like I'm sure when you wrote Her, it was about something substantial. But some days you in there, you just trying to hurry up and get your shot before they kick you out the facilities, right? You're not thinking about but so day one, we shooting the movie, man, and we shot a little bit day zero. The scene where Miles and Mike are in the car, he plays traveling and Mike's freaking out. That was the production day zero. So that actually started before official start of photography. Our actual first production day is the post credit scene when Mike comes in the Coogee sweater and sits down with 80-year-old Sammy and that was day one, right? And I'm in there, man. And we were like, we were behind, and Buddy was like, "Yo, get me out of here," because he's not used to the film set schedule. You know what I'm saying? Like he's like, "Yo, 12-hour day. What is this?" And I remember we were doing it. We were into the scene, and Mike's in there, and he got the fucking high top fade, and and we into the scene, and something wasn't working with the blocking. Like at the end of it, you know what I mean? Like he pays and he gets up, and this happens from time to time, right? You looking and it's like something's not right, and then Mike says, "Oh, well, should I hug him? Like let me just see how this feels." So he does it, and he goes in for the hug, and I'm like, "Oh, that's great, that's it." Because it looks like he might bite his neck. You know what I mean? Like, and so like I like the tension of that. And then he did the hug, bro. And I'm like, that's perfect. And he gets up, and I get choked up thinking about it. I saw myself hugging my uncle. You know what I mean? Like, and it was crazy. Was he was dressed just like my uncle. I thought I was dressing him like Smoke. You know what I mean? Like, so y'all give him the hat like Smoke and put him in all blue. Bro, he was wearing like the clothes my uncle, and I somehow subconsciously I addressed his, my uncle's favorite musician up as him. Didn't realize what I was doing until Mike hugged him. You know what I'm saying? So yeah, like that. I had to take a little break. She obviously talking about I get choked up. I had to take a little break on set. I think Autumn saw me, but y'all, I like jumped behind the bar and cried a little bit. You know what I mean? and then got back to it. But yeah, bro. Like it's a beautiful gig. It's a beautiful situation. To be able to pour bits of yourself to work with people that you love and put yourself out there and to do it on a scale like this and see people respond to it. I mean, it's been a highlight of my professional life.
Amazing. Yeah. All right. Well, I think that's why the movie works so well, is it's got your heart in it so deeply. And so thank you all for coming. Thank you.